Hey guys, this video I'm going to quickly walk you through how to use my Aseprite to DMI extension. So Aseprite's a pixel art program. DMI is a basically a glorified PNG that BYOND DreamMaker uses for image files. Effectively all this does is it's an extension for Aseprite that lets you open DMI files. I do fork off of the Space Station 13 repo that does this. The things that are different about my version is you can edit the whole thing as a sprite sheet, and there's this overlay automation function I did for onerous numbers of character sprites and directions and stuff. So yeah, if you're watching this, hopefully you're interested in doing my fork of the thing, which you can see in the SOA Discord under base and art. There's a thread called DMI to Aseprite. Pick up the zip file. There's a bunch in here, but the one at the very bottom is going to be the most recent one I've done. This version should be pretty good. Hit the download button. Hit save. You get a zip file. You have to extract that zip file. I don't care where you extract it to. Let's say we just extract it to your downloads folder, whatever. That's fine. And basically, you open up Aseprite. You'll see here that under preferences, so edit preferences, there's an extension section. Just click add extension. Come here. You're going to see it, well, to my desktop. It's also my downloads folder, which is where I actually saved it to. Here you go. Hit open. Yeah, and if you need to get rid of it, you can always hit the uninstall button. That works too. Very quick and easy to do. This one's dated yesterday. I don't think it matters. That's the newest version. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, then hit OK. You should see under File this DMI editor section. You don't need to use this to open a DMI file. There is a button for Open DMI, Maintain Metadata. You don't need to do that. You can right-click on a DMI file and change it to open in Aseprite by default. You can right-click and open with Aseprite, or you can click on Open or this Open. It does the same thing. But if you hit Open, the issue you're going to run into is here. Let's go to GOA or SOA. You're not going to see any of your DMI files because the default icon formats are all image files. You can go to all files though, and then you'll see everything, including DMI files. Or you can type in, star.dmi. It'll filter for just DMI files. That's probably what you're going to want to do. This is the wrong folder. Yeah. Oh, I see. These are all shared folders. Fine. We'll just use the desktop where I've got some stuff. So you'll see any folder that is DMI files, as long as you've typed this in, you'll see only DMI files. If I want to take a look at a particular base icon, the one I do recommend using, which I have in the Discord, I have this template base 64. What this is it's the SOA or GOA base icon. Oh, it's just SOA, I guess. But it's a 64 by 64 grid. So what happens is the normal icon was 32 by 32. This has a bunch of white space. It sort of centers the icon under a 64 by 64. So you have more space for overlay and underlay art. So I'm going to download this. And I'm going to save it. So it's down in the downloads folder. Let's open that up instead. So go to downloads, go here. Here we go. So when you open it up, by default it goes into this icon state mode. You can make it wider. You can even add states. This is pretty cool. So if you go to, let's say, the punch animation, you can see both frames of the punch animation. You can change whether you're seeing south or north just by changing the visibility. And you make edits, it'll save. The thing I added that I think is helpful is the View Sprite Sheet button up at the top here. If you do that, you can see the entire sprite sheet, which is pretty handy. Leave this DMI window open. If you close it, it'll close the whole icon. You also are going to want to use this Save button for saving it as a DMI file instead of the default File Save button. Also note there's this little grid layer. Just ignore it. It's invisible by default. If you turn it on, you can see this little outline of your icon's dimensions, which is somewhat helpful. But make sure that anything you don't want to save is hidden when you hit save. The other thing to note is that if you have multiple layers, a PNG file can't handle layers. And that's what a DMI is. So you're going to want to flatten down any visible layers to 1 when you hit save at the end of the day. But you can work in layers on an interim basis as much as you want. In this case, I like working off the base icon because I'm going to hide it at the very end once the overlay is done. So I'm going to hide grid again. So I'm going to create a layer, call it overlay. Now what this does is, let's say I'm going to make a spike. Now I'll make some, just color in the eyes, give a cool black eye effect or something just to make the point. So say I do this, maybe Aberame style glasses. There you go. So color in the eyes, nothing on the back. Color it over here too. Little thing there. Come over here, do the same. You can work on this all you want, and then at the end of the day you can hide your states and hit save, and it'll work. Which is fine, but one of the other things I added which I think is neat, you'll notice this little pink dot on the base icon layer. You can add more. So if I go up to File, DMI, I call them tracking points. So if I go Manage Tracking Points, you'll see that the one tracking point here is the head. It's called Head. If I want to add more, I go Add Tracking Point Tool, and say I go to... Doesn't matter that you actually can put these what they're labeled, but it makes it easier to remember which one you're using. They're all different shades of pink. So say I do torso and hit OK. It'll change my color to a specific RGB value that corresponds to that label. So now I can go to states and I can draw, throughout on the torso. And as long as you're in a consistent spot on the first 4 directional states, they don't have to be consistent within one another, but every time I do a south icon, all the south icons, the pink dot needs to be in the same part of that chest. Every time I do, I could put it down here, it wouldn't matter. As long as I do, every time there's a north, it would have to be right by his belt line. It doesn't really matter. But of course, you'd probably want it, and it has to be just one dot, not multiple per state, or else it will get confused. We'll just use the first one it finds. But yeah, you might find it more helpful to change a little bit here. So let's say I did that throughout. Now we're not going to do that throughout because that'd be a boring video, but I've already done it for the head, so I'll just undo the body. I've already done it for the head state, and that's what we're really aligning to. So throughout, when I use this feature, these glasses here will be pasted on each south state exactly relative to the pink dot on every single state. So as their head moves from walking or from falling or dying, that pink dot is also placed. So watch this, give you a sense of how helpful this is. Go to DMI editor and go Automate Overlay from Layer. Press that button. It'll say, what's your overlay source layer? Overlay. What's my target layer? Well, it's states. That's the one it says with the tracking point, so that's where the dots are. And then use tracking point type. This is where you pick which one you use. If I did torso, but we know I undid that, we're just going to use head. So head. These things should automatically detect. 64 is the dimensions. It pulls in automatically from the DMI file. So you shouldn't have to change any of these, unless they're wrong for some reason. They shouldn't be. Then hit apply. Takes a bit. 184 copy and pastes. Sometimes it doesn't show right away, and it looks like it didn't work. But you'll notice as you put your mouse over it, so what I always do is I just do a quick zoom in, zoom out. It's just a weird graphical bug there. But you'll see, I've got this icon all of a sudden. Those glasses are correctly positioned throughout. Like that. That's a big time saver. Now, anytime if you're trying to do this on arms, for instance, the arms are constantly moving and rotating. It doesn't rotate. It just aligns it relative to that pink dot. But as you can see, for hair and heads and things on the back, backpacks, and even things like that on the middle of the chest that don't move, or even, heck, entire overlays, it still positions them correctly relative to something. And you can do your little tweaks to where the arms are moving or the legs are moving or what have you. So it's a huge time saver in my opinion. And then at the end of the day when you're happy, you just hide states, hit the save button. Cool. And I'll say Aberame sunglasses. Desktop. Save. Now when I go to my desktop, there it is. Should be able to open this with, you'd think DreamMaker, but for some reason it's not installed, so I got to open it the old-fashioned way. There we go. And look, you got a full icon with all the icon states. It maintained all their names. It says 64 by 64. every single direction works. This can go straight into the game like this. So huge time saver. It's not just bound for SOA, like use it for any game that you want. All this stuff is really quite flexible, and it's open source. You know, you can get the source code off my Git. It is a fork of the Space Station 13 one, so just keep that in mind. All credit to those guys for getting the whole decrypting the Z-text chunk from the PNG files working and all the Rust code they did. But I happily added some extra Python or some extra Lua code for the features I wanted. All right, thanks very much. Bye.